everyone, today I'm going to show you how to knit a super easy knit chunky hat. It's very easy. You can use scrap yarn. I'm going to go ahead and make my hat using 3 colors. I'm going to use this golden color. This is glowing gold. Then this here is brass, and then the off-white color. I have this yarn that was left over from another project, so I want to use it to make some hats to give away to the homeless. So I am getting ready to make lots of hats right now, so I'm going to be showing them. They're very simple, very basic patterns that you can make for yourself, again using scrap yarn. Now this is the yarn that I'm going to be using. It's called Bernat Softy Chunky. This is a bulky number 6 yarn. You can also use super chunky yarn or 14 ply if you're in Australia. Super chunky, I believe, is UK. Now these are the needles that I'm going to be using. These are 8mm size knitting needles. These are circular. We're going to be knitting this hat in the round. I don't want to sew anything at the end once it's done, so that's why I'm going to just use these needles and use the magic loop technique to knit the hat in the round. But if you have shorter needles, you can knit the hat in the round. It's very easy. It's probably only going to take you about an hour and a half to make this hat. So let's get started. The first thing that we need to do is I'm going to start with this color here. I'm going to cast on a total of 64 stitches. Now I did a little sample here, a little gauge sample, and in 2 inches using these 8mm size needles, I have 8 rows and 6 stitches across. So here to begin, I'm going to use the yellow yarn here, and we're going to cast on our stitches. Now I am going to wrap the yarn around like this 20 times. That's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Now I have enough yarn here for about 20 stitches. We're going to double it up. We have enough for about 40. And double it up one more time. We have enough for about 60 stitches. Like I said, I need to cast on 64 stitches, so I'm going to add a little bit more. I don't know, maybe half. Let's see. Yes, half. And then we're going to make a slip knot. Now this is the yarn that I just measured, and this here is coming from the skein. So now insert your needle here, and we're going to begin. So insert your finger, open the yarn, and we're going to go from left to right, and we're going to grab a loop like this. That's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on until I have 64. Continue. I'll meet you back once we have 64 stitches to show you the first row. Okay, I finished casting on my stitches. I have 64 stitches here on my needles. Now what I'm going to do, because I'm going to knit this hat in the round using the magic loop technique. By the way, these needles here are 48 inches long. So what I'm going to do here is just divide this in half. We don't have to be precise, just right about here. Pull your cable. And then push or pull your cable here so that your needle is here at the end. Now make sure that your stitches are not twisted. Mine are not. And the working yarn here is right behind the first needle and in front of the second needle here. So like this. Now we're going to begin, and we're going to join in the round. So pull the needle from the back, make sure that the yarn is in front of this needle, and don't pull it all away, leave a loop here. And now we're going to join in the round by just knitting the first stitch like this. Now for my brim, I'm going to knit 1, purl 1. So I'm going to do a 1 by 1 ribbing. So the next stitch I am going to purl. Next stitch, knit, next stitch, purl. So knit, purl, knit, purl, knit, purl. Okay, here's my last stitch. My last stitch here is going to be a knit. For you, depending how you divide it, it might be a purl. Just remember what this last stitch is because you're going to continue. So drop that needle, turn, push your cable, pull the needle from the back with the yarn in front. And this stitch here was a knit, so I need to start this side with a purl. Purl and then knit. Now this is how I'm going to continue until I finish the first row. Now make sure that at the end here you finish with a purl. If for some reason you end with a knit, somewhere along this first row you have messed up, just like I was about to, and have 2 purls or 2 knits. So make sure that you double check and make sure that you did knit 1, purl 1. Continue. I will meet you at the end of this first row. Okay, I'm almost done with the first row. Here's my knit stitch and here's the last one, which is a purl. Now drop that needle, turn, push your cable. You can place a stitch marker here to mark the beginning of the row, which is what I'm going to do. Pull the needle from the back and we're going to continue with the second row. For the second row up to row 8, I think I'm going to do about 8 or 9 rows. Continue watching. I'll let you know how many rows I'm going to do. You're just going to do exactly the same thing we did in the first row. So you're going to knit the first stitch, purl the next, knit 1, purl 1. This is going to be the brim of the hat. So continue, finish this part, continue watching. I'll let you know how many rows I'm going to do, so I will meet you at the end of that row. Okay, I did a total of 8 rows here for the brim. I have 2, 4, 6, 8 rows. Now for a total of 4 rows, I am going to knit every stitch with this same color, and then I'm going to continue with the next color. So knit every stitch all around for a total of 4 rows. Continue, finish these 4 rows where you just knit, and I'll meet you once this part here is done to show you how we're going to change color and then continue with the rest of the hat. Okay, I finished making these 4 rows here of stockinette stitch. So in total, I have 12 rows here, 8 for the brim, and then the 4 that I just finished. Now we're going to change color. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go right here. Here's the last stitch and here's the first stitch. So insert a crochet hook right here, right in the middle between these 2 stitches, and just bring this yarn through like this and tie a knot. I find that this is the easiest way to continue with the new color here. So now the yellow color I've cut already, and with this tail end here, just tie a knot. Make sure to go back here and double check and make sure that this part here looks nice after the hat is done. And if you need to adjust, just undo those knots there. Now we're going to continue. And for a total of 10 rows, I'm going to continue with the new color here. So all we're going to do is just knit every stitch, just like we did the last 4 rows, like this. So continue and make the next 10 rows, and then I'll come back and show you what we need to do next. Okay, I finished making the 10 rows here with the second color. I have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 rows. Now what we're going to do next is we're going to place some stitch markers, because what we're going to do next is we're going to start to decrease, and we're going to go ahead and change color again. So let's put our stitch markers first. Remember that I have a total of 64 stitches. So here what I'm going to do is I'm going to count 16. We have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. here's the first stitch marker. Now count again: 16, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. Place a stitch marker. Count again: 16, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. Place a stitch marker. And then here I'm left with 16. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. So place a stitch marker here. So now what we're going to do is we're going to change color. We're going to cut this color here, and now with the new color and a crochet hook, we're going to go right here. This is the last stitch, and here's the first. Right in the middle through this little bar here, grab a loop or bring this tail through like this and tie a knot. Now tie this yarn here with this tail. Make sure to go back and double check to make sure that this part here looks nice. This is going to be the first row reduction. We're going to reduce every other row. So this is what we're going to do. For the first row reduction, we're going to start with knit 2 together. And now I'm going to knit up to the last 3 stitches. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. We have 3 stitches before the stitch marker. These 2 stitches we're going to do an SSK, knit 2 together through the back. So we're going to slip the first stitch knitwise, slip the next stitch knitwise, put them back on the needle like this, and now knit. Now the stitch that's right before the stitch marker, simply knit. Now here's the stitch marker. I'm going to change that to a bigger size. I'm going to use these instead. They're bigger. Now we're going to do the next section. So knit 2 together. Remember, each section we begin with a knit 2 together. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I have my 3 stitches before the stitch marker. Remember, we do an SSK. So slip, slip, return the stitches to the left needle, and knit 2 together through the back. And the stitch before the stitch marker, knit. Now turn. I'm going to replace this stitch marker with a larger one, and now push my cable, pull the needle from the back, and we have the 3rd section here. So begin with knit 2 together, knit up to the last 3 stitches. I have 2, 12. I have my 3 stitches before the stitch marker. These next 2 make an SSK. So slip knitwise, slip knitwise, return the stitches back to the left needle, and knit. Now the next stitch, knit. Here's the next stitch marker. Change it to a bigger size, and now we have the 4th section. So remember, we begin with knit 2 together and knit up to the last 3 stitches. Here are my last 3 stitches. So make an SSK, slip, slip, return the 2 stitches back to the left needle and knit 2 together. And then knit the 3rd stitch. And here is the first row reduction. Now we're going to turn, push your cable, and pull the needle from the back. Now at the end of the first row reduction, I have a total of 56 stitches in between each one of the stitch markers. So each section now has 14 stitches, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. So every row that we reduce, we're going to be reducing by 8 stitches. Now what I'm going to do in the next row is I'm going to knit all around. We're not going to reduce, we're only going to reduce every other row. So this second row here, all we're going to do is just knit all around every stitch. And at the end of this row, I'm going to have 56 stitches. Continue, finish this second row, and I'll meet you at the end. Okay, I finished the second row. That's where I knit all around, and I have 56 stitches. Now for the third row, this is a decreasing row. So we're going to begin with a knit 2 together here at the beginning. Then I'm going to knit up to the last 3 stitches. I have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I have 3 stitches before the stitch marker. These next 2 stitches, we're going to make an SSK, so slip, slip, put back these 2 stitches to the left needle and knit 2 together. And then the next stitch, knit. Pass your stitch marker, knit 2 together, and knit up to the last 3 stitches. I have 2, I have 3 stitches before the stitch marker, SSK, so slip, slip, return the 2 stitches to the needle and knit, and knit the next stitch. That's how you're going to continue for this third row. Continue, I'll meet you at the end. Okay, I finished the third row. At the end of the row, I have a total of 48 stitches. We decreased by 8 stitches. Now for the fourth row, all we're going to do is we're just going to knit all around. So all of these stitches are going to be knit, just like this. So continue all around, knit every stitch. I'll meet you at the end. Okay, I finished the fourth row. That's where I knit all around. Now for the fifth row, this is a decreasing row, so we are going to decrease here 8 stitches. So remember, we begin with knit 2 together, and then we're going to knit up to the last 3 stitches. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I have 3 stitches before my stitch marker. We're going to do an SSK, so remove these 2 stitches, knit twice, and then put them back to the left needle and knit 2 together. Now knit the next stitch and then repeat the same thing for each section. At the end of this fifth row, you're going to have 40 stitches, and then you're going to do row 6. For row 6, all you're going to do is just knit all around. I have showed you 2 times already the knit rows, which is just knit all around, so I'm not going to show you anymore. I'm just going to show you the reduction rows. So continue, finish the 5th row. You're going to have 40 stitches at the end of the row, and then do row 6 where you're just going to knit all around. I'll meet you at the end of the 6th row. Okay, I finished row 5 and 6. Now for row 7, this is a decreasing row, so what we're going to do here is same thing. We knit 2 together, and then knit up to the last 3 stitches. That's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have 3 stitches before the stitch marker, SSK, so slip, slip, and knit two together through the back, and knit the next stitch. Pass your stitch marker and repeat the same thing. Knit two together, then knit up to the last 3 stitches, six SSK, so slip knitwise, slip knitwise, put back your stitches and knit through the back, two together, and knit the next stitch, and then continue and do the same for the next 2 sections. At the end of the 7th row, you're going to have 32 stitches. Then for row 8, you're just going to knit all around. Continue. I'll meet you at the end of the 8th row. Okay, I finished row 7 and 8. At the end of the 7th row, which was a decreasing row, I had 32 stitches, and then for row 8, I just knit all around. Now for the 9th row, we are going to decrease in this row, so knit 2 together, then knit up to the last 3 stitches. That's 2, 3, 4. We have 3 stitches before the stitch marker, SSK, so slip, slip, return your stitches and knit, and then knit the next stitch, and then repeat for each section. This part you already know. I have already showed you a couple times. At the end of this row, the 9th row, you're going to have 24 stitches. Then for row 10, you're just going to knit all around. I'll meet you at the end of the 10th row. Okay, I finished row 9 and 10. At the end of the 9th row, I had 24 stitches, and then for the 10th row, all I did was just knit all around. Now for row 11, this is a decreasing row, so we're going to decrease here. So beginning with the first 2 stitches, knit 2 together, then knit 1. We have 3 stitches before the stitch marker, SSK, the next 2, and then return them to the left needle and knit the next stitch, and then repeat the same thing for the next 3 sections. At the end of this 11th row, we're going to have 16 stitches left. Now for row 12, we're going to make that into a decreasing row, so I'll show you that next. Okay, I finished the 11th row. At the end of that 11th row, I have a total of 16 stitches. Now for row 12, this is going to be a decreasing row. Now here we have 4 stitches in between each one of the stitch markers. So all we're going to do here is we're going to knit 2 together. Now we have the next 2 stitches here. I'm going to slip the next stitch knitwise, and then slip the next stitch knitwise, and then knit 2 together through the back like this. So pass your stitch marker, knit 2 together. Now we're going to slip the next stitch, slip the next stitch, and put them back on the needle and knit 2 together. I think that'll work. Now turn. Let me show you again. Knit 2 together. And slip, slip, put them back on the needle and knit 2 together. Take that stitch marker, knit 2 together, and slip, slip, knit 2 together, so SSK. Now we're left with 8 stitches. I'm going to close my hat here. I am done with the reductions. I'm going to cut my yarn. Make sure you leave a nice long tail, I don't know, 10-12 inches. It's fine, long enough so that you can weave the rest all around. And with one of these needles here, pass my end through, and we're going to remove these 8 stitches all around. Now insert the needle like this, this is going to create a little knot here, and just pull, and the top here closes. Perfect. Now insert the needle through the center, and all you have to do now is just hide this end here. Make sure that you go all around. Now there's no right or wrong way of doing this, just make sure that the top here is nice and secured. And I think that's fine. So now cut my yarn here and let's see how it looks. There's the top. Perfect. That's how it looks. Now all I need to do is just hide all of these ends here, and the hat is done. So this is how it looks. There. I tried it on, and it fits nice. I like the way that it fits. It's very comfortable. So I hope you like yours as well. Okay, so this was today's tutorial. I hope you like it. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time.